The Levine Museum of the New South. You have to share with us, what does it offer to the public, the general public, that what can they expect when they come visit?
I can tell you what they can't expect.
Okay.
They can't expect a traditional history museum.
Ah.
That's not how we approach history. Levine Museum of the New South is a place that uses history to build community. And we do that by telling everyone's story. So not just the story of the, quote, founding fathers, end quote, but the story of the landowners and the tenant farmers and the factory owners and the mill workers throughout Charlotte's history. And we ask our audiences to participate in the narrative. We pose questions to them. We ask for their feedback. It's a place that really asks you to think about the Charlotte you know and the Charlotte you don't know, and reflect on what you're learning about that and what that says about you and your experience here.
So you mentioned the community, and it's important of them remembering the history of the South from the past to the present. Have you noticed in regards to when people come in to visit the museum, the aha moments and ooh, I didn't know that?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think so. This is a place that tells the story of Charlotte and the Piedmont region from 1865 to the present day. And first of all, the term New South is something that people don't necessarily know about. And for us, that's about a place and a time and an idea. And I think that one of the discoveries as people walk through, so we have a core exhibit that really tells the chronological story in a way that's immersive and environmental and interactive and very story-based. There's music, there are places to sit, houses to go through, stores to shop in, there's film. It's experiential learning. But what people, I think, learn is that this is a place that has always been reinventing itself, and it's not done. So we continue to evolve and change. I think another thing that people learn here, which is a little different from maybe the narrative you learn in school, is that the progress hasn't been on a steady trajectory. Oh, we just keep, we've had our problems, we just keep getting better and better. That is not true, and it never has been.
Okay.
And we make progress, and there are setbacks, and there's backlash, and we confront the same challenges over and over again. Doesn't mean that we don't make progress in the end, but I think one of the messages is we don't make progress without the active participation of all of us. And that's what we hope is that people experience this history and then think about what is their role in Charlotte? What's their role in making this a better place? They understand where we are today because they understand where we've come from, and we hope that leads them to ask where we ought to be going in the future and what their role in getting us there is.
I like that. So basically, it's not your average museum which shows you the history, but it's actually an organic entity that keeps evolving and reflects what's going on in the community.
That's exactly right. So our mission is to use history to build community. We don't use history because it's helpful. We use history because it's essential. Because if you want me to understand who you are, you tell me your story, right? You tell me where you come from, you tell me about your parents, maybe your grandparents, maybe your great-grandparents, and that story helps me understand who you are today. We don't understand Charlotte today unless we understand where Charlotte's come from, how Charlotte started, and where Charlotte's come over the last 150 years.
Okay. So, quick question in regards to Charlotte from then until now, with your visitors that come in, do you see more of the quote unquote locals or those that actually were born and raised in Charlotte visiting versus individuals that are, like I mentioned before, transplants that just come, that moved into Charlotte, ready to start a new life? Where do you see your greatest visitation from?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure we have data about, we know sort of the percentage of people who are local versus tourists.
Okay.
And we have ideas about age breakdown now, who is a longtime Charlottean versus who's a transplant. That I don't think we know, and we have more work to do in learning about that. We hope that people who are new to Charlotte will make this a must-see destination. And I think that's really important as Charlotte just burgeons, because Charlotte's identity is really rooted in its past, and it's through the study of history that we transmit shared values, right? So if we don't understand Charlotte's history, then the identity of this city could get lost. And that would be really too bad, because there's a particular kind of wonderfulness about Charlotte.
I like that wonderfulness. So there's been a lot of positive reviews in regards to the exhibits here we've seen. If you had your pick, what has been, let's say, the one that really stood out and let you know that you are meeting the mark, or the goal of Levine Museum of the New South has been met?
I've been here a year and 4 months, so there's a whole 25 years that precedes me, and the museum has done some amazing exhibits during that time. But since I've been here, at 2.5 weeks after I arrived in Charlotte, Keith Lamont Scott was shot, and the city erupted in protest. And civic leaders and our members and board members came to us and said, what is Levine Museum going to do? We need you to do something. And I've been in the museum field for 30-something years. I've worked for a lot of different kinds of museums. I've worked in museums that have been asked to comment on current events, but I've never worked for a place where people said, what are you going to do for this city? We're hurting. We need you to do something. The other thing that we heard was people saying, but this isn't our Charlotte. This isn't our Charlotte. Well, it is our Charlotte. And as we looked at the history, as we thought about what our response really had to be, we decided that we would attempt to do a rapid response exhibit. Now, museums don't do quick exhibits. That's not what we do. Takes years and costs many, many millions of dollars. That's how you do exhibits. But this was too important for us to waste time. And so we did an exhibit that is still up. It's called No Justice, No Peace. And it invites visitors to look at this event, the protests of 2016, in the context of the last 30, 40 years. Well, longer than that, 60 years. In terms of how segregated housing has divided the city, how segregated schools have divided the city, how a criminal justice system that discriminates against people of color have shaped this city, and then ask them to think about this protest in light of that. And we invited the community to talk to us. So what you'll find in this exhibit are reactions from clergy, from the chief of police and the mayor, from activists on the street, from residents in Uptown, some of whom got it and some of whom didn't. But it's the full range of response from the community in their words. We didn't edit them. We asked them to tell us the stories, and their stories are on the wall. And then we invite people to think about the victims of police-involved violence, not just in Charlotte, but all over the country, to think about these people in a section of the exhibit that is called Lives beyond the hashtags. So, who was Walter Scott? Who was Jonathan Farrell? Who were their families? What did they leave behind? And then look at sort of what happened with these particular incidents and the cases. And it's a sobering moment when you look at the devastation of communities in light of police-involved violence. There is a section of the exhibit at the end that is done by a local photographer, Alvin C. Jacobs Jr., who has a miraculous eye, who took his not very good camera to Florida after Trayvon Martin was shot, and started filming protests all over the country. And his photographs are in this exhibit. And what he manages to do is capture the full range of emotions behind these protests. And I am so proud of this exhibit. Not because it's the greatest piece of exhibitry that's ever been put together, but because I think it captures a moment in Charlotte's history that is really important, and it provokes conversation. And we know that's true from the anecdotal evidence, from the stories we've heard of parents who are able to have conversations with their kids they've never had before, from high school students who are sobered and disturbed and inspired and motivated to get involved because they go through this exhibit. It's really an important piece of work.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we also know too, not only with those exhibits, but your facility also allows individuals to rent it out for special occasions. So it's going back, I take it, to being a part of the community.
Yes. Right.
So how has that been for you? Have individuals been very receptive in regards to it, and proud to say that my event was held at the Museum of the South?
Yes, I think so. So this is a gathering space, and we hold a lot of different kinds of events. Our exhibits have always been a launching pad for dialogue, for panel discussions, for broader community conversations about our history and aspects of our history and what they mean, and how we might think about them from multiple perspectives. And those are events that we sponsor. We are the host. We had an amazing gathering not too long ago of female elected officials and their supporters, and they rented this place. And they rented this place, not a hotel ballroom, which might have been fancier, but this place because this is about Charlotte, because they're history makers, and because we honor history. And then we have, this is a great place for weddings, and people love having their weddings here. It's because there's an elegance and there's a hominess, and it's just a really special environment.
I love that. That's amazing. So how can people find out more about the museum? Is there call, email, website?
All of the above.
Okay.
museumoftheNewSouth.org.
Okay.
And from there, email us, call us, come visit, stop by. We want to talk to people. And we really mean that. So I'm off on a tangent here just for a second, but the way that we found Alvin C. Jacobs Jr., who had not been an exhibiting photographer, was that he came with his photographs, and he was talking to the front desk staff. And as they're looking at this amazing body of work, the head of exhibits walks through the door and they say, "You got to come over here and meet this man." And that's how we first were introduced to Alvin C. Jacobs Jr.
Wow.
He came to us. This is a place that we hope the community owns. So we do want people to come and talk to us. And this is a moment of change for museums in general, but I think that In the future, we will offer more opportunities for culture makers, for people to help write the history of Charlotte with us, instead of us telling everybody what they ought to know.